So to back up, my name is Gus Wood. I work at GauchoSpace doing support. My co-host today is Jonathan. Jonathan is one of our instructional design assistants, one of the longest tenured instructional design assistants. Jonathan, you want to give a little more background on yourself?
Oh, hey everybody. Yeah, I'm Jonathan. I'm a graduate student at UCSB. I'm in the School of Education. My day job, so to speak, is I'm an instructional design assistant over at the Faculty Resource Center. And so I have also, I was a TA before I did this. So I know some of you out there are TAs. So I can empathize with your position a little bit.
Yeah. So Jonathan and I will be covering, again, tools and techniques to design and format your course. So obviously with remote instruction, GauchoSpace is being used in a magnitude really not seen before, and students are on GauchoSpace, instructors are using GauchoSpace more than ever, and we want to make sure everyone's aware of how to use GauchoSpace in an intuitive way and design courses that are really user-friendly. So we're hoping to give you those tools today in this workshop. So Jonathan is going to go over two course sites that basically have the same information, and we'll kind of show you the tweaks and changes we went from a first course site that was designed not so intuitive, not so well, and then a after site where the same information is there, but we've designed it and organized it a bit more intuitively and a little more easier from a student perspective. And then we'll kind of go through those strategies, how we made those changes one by one, and the different tools within GauchoSpace. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jonathan there.
Hello, okay. So kind of wanted to start just by talking about why having a well-designed GauchoSpace is important for you as an instructor or as a TA. And a lot of this is going to sound like common sense, but right now you're probably in the phases of setting up your course or getting ready, if you're a TA. And then there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of things to think about. There's a lot of details, a lot of planning. And sometimes it can get easy to just like lose the forest through the trees. So this is a good opportunity just to step back and kind of look at what is, what otherwise might be clear or obvious. Just in terms of, how should at first glance, how should your course look? How should students be able to interact with it? So really you can look at like, why would you want a well-designed GauchoSpace page? Well, there's like the instructor perspective and the student perspective. So for an instructor, it's nice to have, if your course is well designed and organized for you, if you've put a lot of resources on your page, well, it'll be easier for you just to find them. If you want to, you're teaching a course and something's live and you want to reference something really quick, very nice even for you to be able to find something. Of course, nice for your students too. Also, if things are difficult to find, maybe something is on your page, but if a student can't see it, well, maybe they're going to write into you and say, oh, hey, I can't find, such and such. And that's a communication that doesn't need to happen. If something, of course, you're going to have communication with your students that is going to have to happen, but you want to minimize the communication that doesn't. So then, finally, as an instructor, like you spent a long time developing your course. Why not make it look have it look as good as it can, right? Because sometimes courses can have all sorts of great content, great information. Yeah, you'd want it so that if you wanted to share the course with somebody later or invite somebody in as a course visitor, they'd look at it and say, wow, this is great. Not look at it and say, whoa, I don't really know what's going on here. So that's really what we're getting at today from the instructor point of view. And then from the student point of view, I already said, as a student, you want to be able to find things. But this all comes down to engagement at the end of the day. If let's put yourself in a student's shoes, you know, which of course we should always be doing, but sometimes it's hard to do that when we're really focused on details. But if we step back and we look at like student point of view, let's say you're a student who has just read the syllabus of the course, like, you know, like a good student should. First day they went and read the syllabus, and they're saying, okay, yeah, this is good. I understand this course. I understand what's being asked of me. I know what I should do. And then, you know, they close the syllabus and they go to the course page. You want them to still say, oh yeah, okay, right. Now here's the course page. It's all the stuff from the syllabus. And the way the syllabus was organized, that's the way the course page is organized. So everything flows from that syllabus. You don't want somebody to read the syllabus and say, okay, I know what's going on, and then look at the course page and say, wait, I'm confused. What is all this stuff? So also, if a student goes through week one, for instance, you know, and you want to do things in patterns probably, and if something happens in week one in a certain way, well, it's easy for the student if week two, week three, etc., follows that same pattern. So another theme that we're going to talk about is this building consistency. And this is, again, like if you're a student and you make it through week one, you're like, oh, okay, you're looking ahead. Week two, oh, it just looks like week one, but with different content. Oh, okay, I can do this. And then also if you're a student, like if the course page is a big jumble, and if you want to look at kind of a jumbled example, we have that before page that we shared in the chat. But what if there's something that's required and there's so much clutter on the page that a student would miss it? You know, you want to really limit that. If a student, you know, you want to limit accidentally missing materials. Also, on a related note, sometimes you're going to have materials that are like foundational materials that are like, this is, you know, the bread and butter, the meat and potatoes of the course. This is what you really have to know. And then for people who might want to branch out a little bit, like, well, here's some kind of bonus stuff if you want to learn more. You want to have a nice, clear distinction between those materials. You don't want people, you know, thinking optional things are required, but, you know, you also definitely want people to know that the required stuff is required. So everything we talk about today will hopefully help all of those things happen in your course page. So yeah, so now I would like to show these kind of demo sites. So this is like a fake journalism course we made. Here, I'll share my screen with you. Let's see. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so this is the link to this is in the chat. So I created this little fake course with one of my coworkers a year or two ago, and you know, it's not real, but this is like we thought we'd make a journalism course that was like same material but like presented in not a very effective way, and then maybe presented in a more effective way. So sort of this like, you know, before after makeover situation. So we got this before page and this after page. Yeah, if you have any trouble finding these, they're linked in the chat, and the course enrollment is open on these, so you should be able to see these. So let's pay attention to this like before page. So you can see it kind of, you know, it looks like a normal course. There's a blurb here. There's a syllabus here. Lots of stuff. Take a few seconds to look through this, and maybe if you want in the chat, you could write in some observations or some suggestions. How could we make this course? Maybe don't peek at the after course quite yet. But do you have any suggestions for how we could make this more clear, better organized? We have fewer words and blocks of text. Put resources in some kind of folder. All right, yeah, for sure. Any other suggestions from anybody out there? All right. Well, let's see. Okay, so keep looking at it, and we'll go in and we will kind of talk about piece by piece, like some general like design strategies that we used, well, that we consciously didn't use when making the before site, and that we consciously did use going into the to make the after site. You want to talk about these a little bit, Gus?
Yeah. So I'll share my screen. We can take a look at the after site. So as you'll note, you know, when comparing the two, you know, we're kind of confronted with a bunch of text, a bunch of information on this before site. In this after site, we've got kind of a course heading, you know, information about who the instructors are. You know, if we had TAs, that could be included here as well. And then we've got kind of the centered, you know, course information that is, you know, clear that this is where the syllabus is, where attendance is going to be taken. So, you know, some clear design thought has gone into this in presenting the most, you know, apparent and relevant things at the top of the course. And we've got these, you know, fancy banners to draw eye attention to. And then kind of the most glaring change is this, this tab format we see here. So one thing we'll get into in a little bit is the different course formats that are available in GauchoSpace. So in this format, we're seeing what's called the weekly format, where each week is presented. It's not collapsible or anything. All the content is just displayed. So one of the options is a 1 week format, which is what we're seeing here, where weeks are tabbed. So those are some of the obvious ones. So we also see there's some design elements here, some headings to tell us what the material below the heading is related to. And then we're seeing some other resources than what we saw also in this app before site. So we'll get into those. To show you kind of a little bit more from a starting point, I'll show you this empty site. So this might be what you're more accustomed to seeing at the beginning of a quarter when you're building your site. First thing you want to do is turn editing on. That's going to allow you to make any of those changes, additions to your course site. And then to add kind of any of these elements that we're seeing here, you'll need to click on add an activity or resource. For our purposes for design and organization, we're really only going to be concerned with these resources. So the top section of the add an activity or resource is all going to be activities. These are things that students interact with, that grades are generated from. But for our purposes, yeah, we'll just focus on the resources here. So one of the things we saw on the before site was a lot of files. So in every course, I imagine, you'll be uploading files, whether it be PDF documents, Word documents, PowerPoints, etc. For those, you generally use a file. If you click on File and then click on Add, you'll get brought to a page where you can give the file a name. You can also give it a description, and this is really helpful for students so that they have a kind of an introduction to what this file is going to be about. You know, if I just give this file, say, a name of the author, students might be confused or not really have some orientation to what this file is. So if I give a little background in the description and then check this display description on course page, that file is going to have that background, that description that I give it. And then in this box, I could upload the file that I want to use. So again, that's a pretty basic tool, adding a file. A similar tool to use is a folder. So if we use a folder, click on Add. A folder, like the tip in the chat, kind of condensing multiple files into one place. So if I had, first week readings and I had a full list of different PDF files, I could make a file name. Again, I could even give it a more descriptive description here. And then in here, I can open up, or I can add each file, each reading file I want to add into that folder. On the after site, we see this folder example here, required readings. So when we click on that, we can see these 4 different PDFs that have been loaded into the file, or into the folder. And then students can either open these one by one, or they can click on the option to download the whole folder, and then they'll just download that onto their computer. So this is a really good option if you've got similar typed readings, or a theme, and you have a series of readings under that theme, what have you. Good way to organize those files. So another element to display content, another resource is the page resource. So a page is pretty much what it sounds like. It creates an additional page in GauchoSpace. So we're all used to seeing the main course page, such as this. But you can also make a page resource which will have a different page within the course to display content. So here's a page example that is the syllabus for the course, so we can click on that. And then, this is a page that exists in GauchoSpace, displays the syllabus. This is an option rather than having it as a PDF that students have to download or, open in a new tab. They can just have it as a page they can open to in the course site. All right.
Hey Gus, can I add one more thing about the page?
Yeah.
One nice thing about the page too is if there's a file that you feel like you might need to edit in the future, the page is a lot more versatile than uploading a PDF, for example, because the page, you can just open it up and you can make the change and then you can save it and it'll be edited. Whereas if it's a file, especially like a PDF, you've got to like download it, then you've got to make the change and then upload it again. So.
Yeah, so the page, continually editable, not something you have to take a file down, make tweaks, and then throw the file back up. So another useful tool, so we see these headings here. These are actually called labels. So when you're adding content, if you click on a label, this is really just a way to put text or images or other multimedia directly onto the course page. So when you add a label, you'll see a box like this. In that label text, you would put the content of what you're trying to display on the course. So I can just type in some text. I can change the heading, give it different fonts. But outside of just putting text to the course page, you can also click on this insert or edit image. So I can click on browse repositories, and then I can upload an image file. For instance, on this page, we see this little image at the end of the course, or at the end of the page. This is again just a label that's had a image uploaded to it. So the label is really flexible. It also has this paste special. So if you've constructed, say, like a syllabus, like we saw that page syllabus, or you've constructed other text, say in Microsoft Word, if you use this paste special option, you can just paste the contents into here and then complete paste. And it'll keep that formatting that you might have done in Word to keep it from getting messed up. It'll keep the headings, it'll keep any fonts or colors that you've added, or like if you've made columns or different, say like a sheet in Microsoft Word. So it'll bring that in when you do the copy and paste special. Additionally, if you have GauchoCast, if you're using GauchoCast to display videos, there's an option here, Panopto. So Panopto is the software that GauchoCast is based on. So clicking this, we didn't use GauchoCast in this, but you would see a full list of all the different GauchoCast videos that are associated with your course page. So you could select one of those, and then it would be embedded in this label. And again, this text editor can be used for the page, for the label, pretty much anywhere that you as an instructor are going to be editing text. So with that label I saved, you see it now on the course page there. Go ahead and delete that. All right, and so let's jump back into the after page. So those are some of the, materials that we see here. We also see the book resource. So that's another resource you can add here. And the book is essentially what it sounds like. It's a book that then you can make chapters for. So I can show you the example here, optional readings. So we've got a table of contents, and then we've gone ahead and embedded some PDF files into the book. So it's a nice way to, house PDFs in GauchoSpace rather than, students downloading them individually. They can view, all these pages and then move on to the next chapter when they finish the first one. So it's, again, just another way to display content and reduce, multiple files being put on the course page itself.
And so that you're looking at the book, I think, in week 1. The book actually in week 2 is a little more basic in that it doesn't have PDFs. It just has text uploaded to it. That's probably the more basic way to use it. But if you're interested in putting PDFs in it, in that book in week 1, there's actually one of the chapters is how to embed a PDF in it, if you're interested.
Yeah, so and kind of like I mentioned before, if you had a Word document that say had all this text, you could do the copy and paste special and kind of just paste in that text to display it in the book. All right. So those are some of the resources. Now I'll get into some of the other tools you can use to organize the course, not necessarily putting these things on the course, but organizational tools. So on the right side of every GauchoSpace course, we have these, what we call blocks. So at the top here, we see the administration block. And this actually has a lot of built-in tools that can get at organizing your course. So if you go to edit settings, we can show you how to change your course format. So you'll scroll down and then get to course format here. So again, we're using the one topic format for this course site currently. There are a number of different course formats available. So one topic and 1 week are similar. 1 week just follows a weekly date pattern. So if it's the 3rd week of the quarter, that week's tab will automatically open and display to students. If your course is more designed around topics and you're not necessarily following a weekly pattern, the one topic format might be more to your needs. Those topics are just different tabs that then you can edit the names of those topics for your needs. And then we have a tiles format, a collapsed sections format, which is the new default on GauchoSpace. We have a regular topics format and weekly format. These again are similar to the one topic and 1 week in that they just follow either a weekly preset dates format or a topics, so you can make different topics for each section. And then lastly, we have a reverse weekly format, which is a format that displays the most recent week at the top of the course page and then previous weeks in order below them, and then future weeks are hidden and shown when that week is reached. So I'll show you an example of each of these formats here. Just a sec. So this is the collapse topics format. Again, this is the default when you start a course site. So week one, this is set hypothetically that the quarter started on August 23rd. So we're already in week two. It's opening and showing me week two automatically. And then week three is also collapsed. So I can open this, view this content. If I'm a student, get back to maybe a reading that I need to get access to, or I can just view the current week, collapse this week, open the third week, what have you. So this is a nice option to kind of condense your course site a little bit if you've got a lot of content on it. The next one here, this weekly format, this had been the default format for GauchoSpace. It's just, again, just multiple weeks, no collapsible functionality, just a straight organization of all the materials on one page. The 1 week, so this is the 1 week tabbed format. So this green dot just lets us know that we're in week 2 right now. So when we got to week 3, it would automatically change to week 3. But again, students can shuffle around, use whichever tab they'd like. And then the next one, reverse weekly. So again, this is a format where future weeks are hidden, and then the most current week is shown at the top, and previous weeks are shown towards the bottom. So I'll click on view as a student.
Hey, sorry, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Is there any way to keep some stuff pinned on top if we do the reverse week format?
So this general section will stay at the top.
Okay, so it's like the old format, that stuff will still stay up there. It won't mess anything up.
Exactly, yeah.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah. So in this case, I'm viewing as a student. We're in week 2. And then if I scroll down, I can see the content from week 1. And then once we get to week 3, automatically week 3 will appear at the top. All right, and lastly, we have the tiles format. So tiles is a bit different. So it creates these different tiles, and then you can put content into these tiles. So it creates this little modular tile dropdown where the content is displayed, and then you can jump around to the other weeks or other sections. This one is a new one to GauchoSpace, and it's growing in popularity. I would just add that this one can be a little finicky. For instance, you can add pictures to these sections, or pictures to these tiles. If for whatever reason you switch your course format, say to the weekly format, those pictures will just get lost in that change. So in general, if you're thinking about using tiles, I would recommend building out your course, say in the collapse topics format first, and then switching your course to this tiles format. It just operates a little differently with this action here, and it doesn't always play well when you move things around from different formats with the tiles. All right. So again, that was a setting that you can get to from the administration block, edit settings, and then course format. So all the formats are listed here. And then the formats themselves have some individual settings. So like the question that was asked about keeping a section at the top, that's kind of what this language is about. So it's called section 0, that general section. So in this case, we've set it to be above the tabs, which is the normal default behavior. So again, this general section stays there, and then we can jump around to the different weeks down here. All right, and then kind of another organizational aspect in that administration block. Won't really get into this for this training, but the gradebook setup, it's an easy way to get into there. And then, you know, organizing your gradebook is a whole nother aspect of, you know, using GauchoSpace. We won't get into that for this training though, but it's another easy way to get into the gradebook from the administration block. All right, and then another one, import. So let's say, you know, you spend a lot of time building out a course, and then you think, you know, I spent a lot of time on this course, I want to reuse these materials. You know, the next time you teach that course, or if you ever want to access any of those materials in a future course, you can use this import function. And, you know, I'm seeing a lot of courses here just in my role, but you would see all the courses that you're an editing TA for or an instructor for, and then you can, you know, click on it, follow the steps to import. You can either select everything to import, or you can go granular and select, you know, certain things that you want to import into a course. All right, and then kind of another organizational aspect is there's a report called dates report. So if you open the reports and dates, this is going to display, you know, every assignment or everything, every activity in your GauchoSpace course site that has a due date or a timing date of any kind. So when you do import materials from, say, last year into your course, you know, those dates will come with it. And this is a one-stop shop kind of place for you to update those dates to the current quarter. All right, and one of the other ones in the administration block, if for whatever reason, say I, you know, had editing turned on and I accidentally deleted, you know, this label here, there's this handy recycle bin, so you can get into your whatever's been deleted and then click on restore, and that'll bring whatever you might have deleted back into your course site. So it's also, maybe you created something, but you don't want to use it right now. You can, you know, keep it in the recycle bin and pull it back out, say, the next day when you want to use it. One more block I'll mention is this mass actions block here. This is really useful when, say, maybe you import a bunch of materials and they're not in the right section, or, you know, like in this case where these things got indented, you want to make that change. The mass actions block has a lot of different powerful tools to do those types of things. So with it enabled, the mass actions block, you would just click on add a block at the bottom, and then it would be down here. I've already added it, so it's not going to appear there, but it would be the mass actions block. And then I see it here with editing turned on, and it creates these check boxes next to all my different activities and resources. So let's say for everything under materials, I want to indent. So I can check these boxes. And then I can click on this indent, page will reload, and then all those things just got indented, you know, just making more clear that they're falling under the materials. Similarly, if let's say I wanted all these to be moved, I wanted them, you know, actually in week 3, I could click on this move to section week 3, and then that'll just move all these things over into week 3. I don't have to worry about dragging and dropping them, or, you know, other kind of weird ways of trying to get this material in there. The mass actions block will do all that for me. So same with hiding, showing, deleting something. Those are all options in here. All right, so those are some of the initial, you know, aspects of resources that you can use and tools you can use in GauchoSpace to organize your course sites.
Can I ask a quick question? It's a little bit tangential, but I was just noticing when I was playing with adding a Zoom link to set up a Zoom meeting, one of the options is for it to be a webinar or not. And I'm just wondering what that means.
Yeah, that'll depend if you have a webinar license already. So those need to be given out by ETS. So a webinar is essentially what this is. It allows for more than 100 participants to be in the Zoom meeting. And then it comes with some other functionality like polling is built into the meeting. Those are the main functionalities, but again, the biggest one is the course size. So if you have a course that's over 100 students and you're going to be using Zoom, you'll need to contact ETS. And I can put the link in when I get to
it. Please do, because that's relevant to me.
Sure. Yeah, let me, when Jonathan gets to his part, I'll throw that link in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, speaking of which, so I think Jonathan is gonna jump in here.
Not my part, cool. Let's see. All right, so Gus talked to you guys about a lot of these tools that maybe you didn't know about. So I'm gonna zoom back out to these themes that, again, like if we stop and we just kind of reflect for a minute, sometimes these might be pretty clear. But I want to talk about them in the context of these two fake courses that are kind of variations on, on the same content. So if we go and look, I'll share my page. I'll share my screen with you. Let's see. Okay. All right. Cool. So if we look at this one that we claim is well organized. So we have our core syllabus front and center, very clear, very accessible for students. The benefits of that are pretty clear. If we open this syllabus, I made a syllabus that looks like a normal syllabus. Here we have the content for the week, the topic is listed, and then for each week, we have the content that students are expected to interact with, and then after which the assignments, the assessments, that students are supposed to do to demonstrate, their mastery or competence with the content that they learned. So it's a pretty straightforward structure for a course. And if we were the student, we would read this and we'd say, okay, this all looks, pretty clear. And then when we go back to the course, you can see that this structure of a given week, right now we're week 2, I'll go to week 1, but all of the weeks reflect that structure that we saw in the syllabus. So first of all, the syllabus, goes by weeks. Okay, well then maybe our page should go by weeks. And then the syllabus has, okay, it's organized in, there's readings you do, and then there's assignments you do. Okay, well in the course page, look, here are the materials, here are your readings, and then here are your assignments. So it very much mirrors the syllabus. And you can see that that's like that for every week. We only built out 2 weeks in this fake course. We figured you kind of get the point after that. So also with that idea of of just kind of matching up with the syllabus, yeah, or just if you have any, this is kind of one of these points of having this section 0 here too, is that when you have the section 0, this fixed section up top, like everything is here always for the students. So even if they're on week 2, they can come up here and see the syllabus at any point. It's not like when you start to get that big scroll, especially with the default format that GauchoSpace used to be in, by the end of the quarter, you could be way down there in the syllabus. You'd still have to scroll quite a ways to get up there. So let's see. Also, another theme is just have consistent layout and formatting. As you can see, week 1 looks like week 2. Inside here, The formatting is roughly the same. Also, if you're we told you about like importing from other courses, which is really great. That's another thing that I think is important to take away here, is that I think sometimes people think, well, you know, I could make my course look really great, but that would take a long time. And, you know, the quarter's only 10 weeks long. So, you know, do I have to do that every quarter? The answer is no. You can take, you know, if you're teaching the course again, you can import it into the next quarter, and all of your formatting will carry over also. Even if it's a different subject, you could still copy over an old course that has a nice format that you like, and then you could swap out, you know, individual files or change the assessments, but still keep the structure of how the course looks and how the course kind of works. Because that really, you know, should be independent, you know, largely independent of the specific content. Also, I just wanted to reiterate that idea that if you do transfer information over, you can use that dates report. So yeah, right, if you go to reports and dates, that way if you use that, you can change all of the past due dates at once to the current quarter's due dates. And then that way you don't have loose information from past quarters hanging around if you do import. And of course, yeah, you would definitely want to go through and proofread your course and just make sure that anything that maybe was relevant last quarter that isn't this quarter gets removed. Maybe there's a file that, you know, you talked about last time you don't want to talk about this time. I've actually seen instructors, you can even hide things or move things to a hidden section in your course. If, let's say, you don't want to, you've imported this course from a previous one and you want, you know, but you don't really want to delete that content. You just want to hide it because maybe you'll bring it in later in the quarter, or maybe if you want to import this course into a future quarter, you can still use those resources. So you can keep things hidden. And if you do that, yeah, think about moving all your hidden materials to kind of one place at the bottom, you know, just for you. The students wouldn't see it. Also, pretty obvious, but you know, we recommend using just clear naming schemes. If there's a reading, you know, calling it reading 1, reading 2, reading 3, maybe that's good. I mean, that really shows students, well, we want you to read these in this order, but it doesn't give them any idea of the subject matter of the reading. You know, on the other hand, as a graduate student, I come into contact with a lot of courses where there's a PDF and it's called author and year. And okay, you know, but a lot of times if there's 10 or 20 of those, I have no idea what they're about. I don't know how they're, you know, how they're organized. So I'm not saying that there's a clearly better way to name your files, but it's something that, you know, thought should be put into because there's different ways of doing that. And that's another place too where these labels can come in handy. So if you do want to label your readings with that traditional author year, you know, style, well then maybe you could put them in a label that gives a little more information about, you know, when do they happen in the course or what do they all have in common, something like that. Especially because you as the instructor, of course you know Smith 93, but if you're a student, well, you know, maybe it's not so obvious to you. So another thing you can do is add descriptions in files. So for instance, if I turn editing on here, you know, I can add a description to these slides here. I can click here. Whoops. No, actually, let me go to edit over here and go to edit settings. And I can add a description. For Monday's class. I can save that. And I'll turn editing off so it looks pretty again. All right. Where did that go? In any case, Okay. So this will. Oh, I need to set it to display on the homepage. Whoops. Second. Here we go. Display description on homepage. There we go. I always forget about that one. Okay. Cool. And there you go. So if you have some complementary information you want to include on a file, you can do that. Again, we don't recommend putting too much there, but it lets you add more that's not just in the title. Also, Gus talked about the labels, but the labels, again, can be a really nice way of dividing content. So here, again, we have this label that shows, yeah, these are the materials students read, and these are the assignments that they're responsible for. And so this is what like we were in our office calling like descriptive labels. But then you can have fancy labels, which are more to make your course look good and to kind of separate content. So here, like I said earlier, these stripes here, these are actually labels. It's just a space bar, many times and then highlighted with a color. It's pretty basic, but you could also do images and put in a banner there. Also, you see how there's this white space here that separates the agenda from the course materials and the course materials here from the assignments. All this is a label that's blank. So if I go to turn editing on, you can see here, actually, it's just a label that doesn't have anything in it. So that's something nice to take advantage of as well. So then also, Gus talked about the gradebook very briefly, and that we're not really going to talk about how to set up a gradebook too much, but it does fall into the same idea of keeping your course organized and keeping things tied to the syllabus, having the syllabus be like the hub of your course and everything else radiating off of that. So if we go to this course and we go to grades, well, first of all, let's go to the bad course and go this course grades, gradebook setup. You can see everything's here. It's in this big list. If we go into the after course and go to gradebook setup, you can see that everything is indented nicely and organized into these categories. And so then as a student, when a student goes and they look at, let's go to the user report to see what a student sees, it's very clear what each assignment, what category it falls into. And then if we go back to our syllabus, guess what? All of those categories are right here in our syllabus. So the grading scheme that's specified in our syllabus is reflected in our gradebook. Again, we're going to do a training on grading and gradebook. So, feel free to join us for that. Also, there's a lot of resources in our Help Center, which you can get to with Help and Help Center on gradebook setup, for instance. But it's just something else to think about. It's not just the main course page, but also don't forget about the gradebook too. Let's see. And just one thing about the gradebook that we like to just say, even if we're not talking about the gradebook too much, is that if you create an activity on the main page, like a quiz or an assignment, something that lives on GauchoSpace and gets graded on GauchoSpace, it'll actually appear in your gradebook automatically. You don't have to put it here manually. It'll show up on its own. So, great. So, Gus, did you want to talk a little bit about maybe, let's see, clutter?
Sure. Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of same points, but one of the things we've done is to make that new collapsed topics format the new default, and we're hoping, and I think we've gotten feedback that helps reduce long page scrolls, so that when you get to week 11, say, students are able to quickly and sensibly be able to get to that content for week 11 than say, in this course site where they're, scrolling to the bottom to get to the last bit of content for the course at the end of the quarter. So with that in mind, there is a happy medium of putting a lot of material on the course site, adding labels that have a lot of information, and then, getting into a place where you have a lot of information that might be confusing or maybe is better served by, being a page itself that students click into and say, here's the video content, rather than putting that video, embedding it on the course site itself. So that's kind of a mindset to think about as you're adding things to your course page. Is this, front page, course page relevant, or is there a better way to display this? Kind of like what Jonathan was saying about labels, I'll also say that, they're very versatile. A lot of things you can do with them. And I'll just show editing this label. For those of you who maybe are familiar with HTML, if you expand the label text editor options here, if you click on this button, you'll get to this HTML editor. So if you have HTML content, say somewhere else that you want to embed, or say you want to add HTML around something that you already have in the label, this is a way for you to input that HTML code or embed the HTML code, say from some other website, into that course, into this label itself. So this is a really good option if you're looking for that functionality. Let's see, and then trying to be mindful of time as we're getting towards the 3 o'clock hour. I'll do one other plug for a new tool we've added to GauchoSpace recently. It's an advanced tool, so you have to have this slider on for advanced tools, and you'll be able to see it when you click on add an activity or resource. And it's called this interactive content. H5P is the source of this. So H5P is an open source content builder and designed for instructional purposes mostly. And they have different modules you can add. So these are, all their various options. They have interactive video where you can, upload a video and add timestamps with different questions as students progress through the video. There's all sorts of different options in here. And you would build this content in this activity. So some of them are interactive, some of them are a little more informative. So on this course page, we've put a accordion example. So this is just a quick example. It's actually this piece of content here where it's just displaying some syllabus information in this accordion style collapsible option. So this is, again, it's a kind of new thing to GauchoSpace, this H5P content builder. And they have a host of different content types you can add. And some of them are definitely help with organizing your course and displaying that information. All right. One other thing to kind of keep in mind is where your students might be accessing your course from. So some of them might be accessing from, say, a tablet or their phone. And it's worth thinking about and testing, like on your own phone, just to see how students might be seeing that information on your course site. So if you have certain things, big labels, they might get displayed a little odd on a mobile phone or a tablet. So just being mindful and like testing those out on your own is a good option. Especially in this remote environment, students are accessing GauchoSpace from a lot of different pathways and different devices. So just keeping that in mind as well. I think, Jonathan, that we've just got a little more time to go over our last bit here on completion tracking.
Yeah. So there's one feature, yeah, we just wanted to share with you real quick, and it's this completion tracking. So I'll share my screen again. Okay. So I'll go to this course. I'll show you how to turn this on. So this is like a course-wide, it's a course-wide setting that you need to turn on. So if you are on your course page and you go in the administration block to edit settings, you'll see at the bottom, you have this option for completion tracking. So what you would do is you would turn this to yes for the course. And then when you're in the course, so I'll go to the other course page now. And you create a new assignment. I'll just look in the settings of this one, even though it's created. You'll then notice that at the bottom, you'll have this activity completion menu in the activity settings as well. And if you didn't set the course-wide setting, this wouldn't appear here. But what you can do here is you can set options that set this activity to be marked as complete. And actually you can do this with resources too. So like with that file or the page, you can even set it for that. And it would be marked as complete if it was, you know, if it was accessed. But so you could do this for an assignment. You can do it for a forum. If you do it for a forum, some of these criteria could be, for instance, oh, a student needs to post one time and reply 2 times in the forum, and then it's marked as complete, or whatever parameters you'd like. But the parameters are different for each type of activity. But once you do that, once you set that up, what you get for it is, if you go back to the main page, let's see. So one thing you can do is you can set a restriction up, an access restriction, to say, well, you know what, you can't take this quiz until you've done the required postings in the forum. And if a student went to the quiz, it would say, no, you don't have access to this yet. So you can set up some sort of kind of flow for the order of what you want students to, you know, which activity you want them to do in which order. So you can set that up. Also, you can...
There's an example on the week 2 tab there, Jonathan, as well.
Oh yeah? Okay, let me check that out. Oh, here you go. Okay. So it's not available unless the other one is marked as complete. Yeah. That's how it would appear to you there. Also, there's a block on the side here called completion progress, which you can add with this. If you have your editing on, you can come here to add a block, and you can put this one on. It's not on there by default. But what this does is, so if you're a student, what you might see is something like this. And each activity, everything that has completion progress set for it in the course, then becomes a cell in this bar. And the cells are different colors for the status that they have. So if they're blue, it means it's not, it's not due yet and you haven't done it. It's like in the future. If it's green, it means you've done it and it's been graded and good. Red, not surprisingly, means it's past due and you didn't do it. So then it's red. And then yellow means you've submitted it, but it hasn't been graded yet, or it's kind of in limbo. But what that gives you at the end is this, as a student, it gives you this visual of how am I doing in this course? Like, you start with all blues and you want to get to all greens and hopefully not have too many reds in there along the way. From an instructor perspective, if you go to overview of students here, as you can see the different cells and how they correspond to the different activities. But if you go to overview of students, you actually see the bar for all of the students. So it can be nice for you to kind of get this, how's my class doing? Is everybody up to speed? So kind of gives you that at a glance. So that's a cool feature. And, we're not going to go into all the nitty gritty about setting it up now, but if you're interested in that, again, check out our help center, or get in touch with us, and we can help you set that up.
Yeah, with that, I'm going to end the recording now since we've gotten through kind of our formal content.